Let's talk about the difference between just living a life and actually building one. We're going to explore how to shift from being a passenger to becoming the master architect of your own life, laying each brick with total intention.
So let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself. Do you ever feel like you're just kind of going through the motions? Where everything looks pretty good on paper, but deep down, it doesn't really feel like it's yours? If that hits home, you are definitely not alone. And that feeling, it's not a life sentence. It's actually the perfect starting point.
Think about it like this. So many of us are living inside a house we didn't actually design. It's this prefabricated house of shoulds, built from all the expectations of what we should be doing or who we should be.
But here's where things get really exciting. What if, instead of just living in that house, you could grab a fresh set of blueprints and design your own? This is the core idea right here, realizing you have the power to go from being a tenant to being the architect.
Okay, so first things first. We gotta act like a building inspector for a minute. We need to see the invisible architecture that's already been built around us and really identify those pre-made plans before we can even think about drawing our own.
So who are these architects of should? Well, they aren't some evil villains. They're just the subtle, constant pressures all around us, from society, from our families, even from our social media feeds. They hand us a blueprint that says, hey, this is what success looks like, often before we've even had a chance to ask ourselves what we truly want.
And this right here, this really gets to the heart of the struggle. On one side, you have their script. It's clear, it's safe, it's a well-traveled road. And on the other side, your script, which is often just a blank page, or maybe a giant question mark. And yeah, that uncertainty can feel pretty terrifying.
So what's the very first move? It's actually super simple. It's just admitting that this gap exists. It's looking at both of those pages and giving yourself real, honest-to-goodness permission to pick up the pen and start writing your own story, even if you have no idea how it's going to end.
All right, so we've identified the old, borrowed plans. Now comes the fun part. It's time to start drafting our own blueprint. This is where we switch from deconstruction to active, intentional design.
So where do you even begin? Well, you start by digging deep to find your core values. First, what are your absolute non-negotiables? The things you simply refuse to compromise on, like creativity or freedom or connection. Second, can you tell the difference between a passing want and a deep, soul-level vision? And finally, you pull it all together into your master plan, your personal guide for everything you build from here on out. And the whole point of this isn't to create some long to-do list. It's to create what you could call a soul-aligned vision. See, this isn't a destination you arrive at. It's a compass. It's a direction for your life that just feels deeply right, because it's built on the bedrock of who you really are. It's the ultimate feeling of coming home to yourself. Okay, so you know how every big construction project has a demolition phase, right? Before you can build something new and amazing, you usually have to tear down the old rickety stuff. In our case, that stuff is the limiting beliefs we have inside our own minds. Just take a look at this list for a second. Do any of these sound familiar? I'm not good enough. It's too late for me to change. I just don't have what it takes. These beliefs, they're like faulty wiring or cracks in the foundation that can sabotage the entire project before you even start. They're the stories that keep us from even picking up a hammer in the first place. This quote from Peter Crone is such a game changer. It reframes the whole struggle. It suggests that when life pushes your buttons or throws a challenge your way, it's not random. It's life literally shining a spotlight on the exact spot where you're not yet free, showing you where you have an opportunity to break through. And I really want to be clear here. This isn't about just slapping a coat of positive thinking paint over the cracks. No, this is strategic demolition. It's the conscious, deliberate work of identifying a belief that's holding you back and choosing to replace it with one that actually empowers you. It's a renovation, and you are totally in charge.
All right, the demolition is done. Now we move from tearing down to building up, because a brilliant blueprint is totally useless if it just stays on paper. This whole phase is about pouring the concrete and laying the bricks, and we do that through small, consistent, daily habits.
I mean, this says it all, doesn't it? A vision, no matter how grand or beautiful, is just a daydream without a real strategy. And that strategy is built brick by brick on the power of what you do every single day. Your habits are the actions that turn that drawing into a real, livable structure. One of the most powerful tools for this is the idea of a keystone habit. Now, this isn't about changing everything all at once. It's about finding that one small, simple change that kicks off a whole chain reaction of other good stuff. Maybe it's making your bed every morning, which leads to a tidier room, which gives you a clearer mind. It's that one small thing.
Think of it like this. You're not trying to push over a giant wall. No way. You're just looking for the one tiny domino that has the power to knock over all the others. So the real question becomes, what's your first domino?
Now, to make sure these new habits actually stick, we can use a framework like SMARTer goals. You've probably heard of SMART goals, right? Well, this version adds 2 letters that are honestly total game changers. E is for exciting because, let's be real, if a goal doesn't genuinely fire you up, it's always going to feel like a chore. And R is for recorded because the simple act of writing it down, that transforms a wish into a real, solid commitment.
And this brings us to the final, and maybe the most rewarding phase of all. Because, you see, this isn't a project that you just finish and then walk away from. This is about fully embracing your role as the architect of your life. For life.
So, how do you keep the construction going? First, you got to celebrate the small wins. Every single brick laid is a victory. Second, start treating setbacks not as failures, but as interesting architectural challenges you get to solve. And maybe the most important thing of all, allow your blueprint to evolve. Your life isn't static, so why on earth should its design be?
And that right there, that's the ultimate takeaway. The real joy, the real fulfillment, isn't in finally arriving at some perfect finished house. It's found in the beautiful, messy, empowering, and lifelong process of designing and building a life that is authentically, wonderfully, and completely you.
So, the plans are in your hands now. The tools are right here. The only question left, the only one that really matters, is this. What is the very first brick you're going to lay?